Hey guys, if you want to start collecting Blood Angels now in 10th edition, this is the guide for you, because I'm gonna talk about some of the competitive choices, things that will work now and have worked for a while, things that are more efficient to buy, and things that I don't recommend to buy now because there may be some new releases in the future. Without further ado, let's dive right in. And as always, we'll start with Combat Patrol Blood Angels, which probably is the logical place to start if you're just a beginner, definitely. And this one is not a bad box. It's probably better now than it was in 9th edition because aggressors are significantly better now. So you get 5 infiltrators here, 5 infiltrators or incursors, which they can be both, and they are a great support unit, either of them, for your Blood Angels to block reserves from coming in your deployment zone or anywhere else in the board. That's a very good unit. It's a shame there's only 5 of them, but if you're trying to build like the most bare bones army possible, 5 infiltrators is enough for your purposes. Primaris Librarian. This one is more difficult because his ability that he gives to his squad, and he can only join Tacticus, so you're not gonna see him, for example, walking around with aggressors or something like that, something that you really wanted him to walk around with. His ability is given 4+ invulnerable save and also shrug against psychic attacks, which 4+ invuln is very nice usually, but the problem is that you cannot join any more characters in alongside him, so you cannot add, for example, a lieutenant and a librarian, or chaplain and a librarian, something that you would really want to, and you are left deciding between durability and extra buffs in combat, which in Blood Angel's case you would usually want the buffs. Still not a bad option to have, especially if they return psychic phase in its normal form somewhere in the future. Next are 3 aggressors. As I said before, very strong unit. Now they're great in combat, they're even better as Blood Angels because you're gonna get that extra strength, extra attack, and the more attacks you have with these guys the better, because you are rerolling all wound rolls and you can get full rerolls to hit from your oath. So that is a wonderful combination right there, and they are incredibly good, especially if you transport them in something like a Land Raider. And just a note, this guide will work for you if you want to build Blood Angels just as a faction, but I'm mostly concentrating on using the detachment that we currently have access to and looking in the future on the detachments that we might receive with the Codex. So keep that in mind. So even though we don't have access to Fire Discipline combo here, the one that we really like to use with aggressors, they're still quite good, and I would still probably recommend to run them with the Biologist just because of his very cheap and lethal hits are a nice addition. But you can go for the Captain, for example, as well. Next, 5 intercessors. Still nothing to write home about. You don't really want the intercessors themselves, but they have a nice thing that you can paint them black and then they become very good, especially if you give them a chain sword in their hands, and no one prevented you from cutting and gluing a little bit, right? So 5 intercessors just as is, they're very bad, you don't want them, but 5 intercessors as Death Company, that is a nice, interesting thing to add to your collection. And just so you know, I don't think intercessors are like terrible. They have the sticky objective rule, which is nice. I just feel like they are very lackluster. That's what I meant by bad. Next is the Impulsor, a very good transport choice. It only allows you to carry the Tacticus armor and the Phobos armor, so you don't really have an option to put some Firstborn there, which is very annoying considering that Land Raider is now finally allowing everyone in, but the Impulsor is still that bastard who only carries the newer marks of armor. But that's still a good transport because you have those Death Company intercessors, which are a good unit, and you have Blade Guard, which are also a great unit. And if you have Blade Guard plus a Chaplain inside an Impulsor, that's a very good combination right there. You're obviously also going to get 2 sprues of the Blood Angels upgrade pack, which are not counted towards the value of the Combat Patrol, so it's actually more than 240 bucks. So it's a very efficient Combat Patrol. I really recommend this one as your first purchase. It's not gonna cover even remotely what you need for a full Blood Angels collection, but it's a good start. And as you'll see later, for a box set, that's a very big discount. So purely economically, that's a very good deal. Quick reminder, if you want my help building your Blood Angels roster, I'm doing full list breakdowns for my Patreons, and I can also help you decide what to buy for your new collection. So check out the links for my Patreon in the description. Next is Combat Patrol Dark Angel. So this one has my favorite beloved Redemptor here, and if you know me, you know I love my Redemptors, and they are extremely good even now at a slightly higher price of 210 points as of recording this video. They're still a great addition to any Space Marine list whatsoever, and I think for Blood Angels they're also good because they will benefit quite well from the buffs that you get in the detachment. +1 to the attacks is good, +2 to strength is also nice on the charge, as you will be strength 14 then. So against toughness 7 stuff or even toughness 12 stuff, that's a very good bonus. Inceptors, now they are a very good universal fire support platform. They're mobile, the bolters and the plasmas are both great for their different purposes, so you can probably magnetize them if you want to. They have recently increased in price, but they're still good, and their ability to dip strike within 3 inches of your opponent gives you that level of mobility that Space Marines outside of Inceptors don't really have. Obviously, they don't fight, which is a big problem for Blood Angels, but considering that the theme of Blood Angels is all that mobility with jump packs and stuff like that, I think Inceptors will fit quite nicely and are also a good competitive choice. Primaris Chaplain. Any Chaplain is good. Chaplains give you +1 to wound and also some sort of buff, depending on what mark of armor they wear. In this case, I think the Chaplain gives the ignore battle shock once per game or something like that. But he is there for +1 to wound for your Blade Guard or Death Company, and that's a very important buff, just considering that Blade Guard are base 5 strength, and they would be bumped up to strength 7, which is already a huge jump. And then you're also adding to that +1 to wound. So you're already bypassing several of those layers of toughnesses, and on top of that getting +1 to wound. That's a very big bonus. Of course, you can turn on a Red Rampage for lance and lethal hits, but that requires you to spend command points, and you can use that potentially for a unit of Blood Angels that doesn't have a Chaplain in it. So having that +1 to wound inbuilt is nice. And again, Intercessors, not great by themselves, but if you consider that you can make assault ones or Death Company ones out of them, they're very good to have. Not such a great discount here. Obviously, we're not going to use the Dark Angels shoulder pads, which makes it less valuable, and the discount is smaller, but we're getting a very nice set of models again. So having your Blood Angels journey start with Combat Patrol Blood Angels and Dark Angels can be a good idea. Plus, keep in mind, if you're not familiar with how GW works, these prices are the prices from the official store, and you pretty much can always count on having at least 10, sometimes 15% discount, depending on where you live, from your local gaming store or an online shop. Next is Combat Patrol Space Marines, so the new one, which is essentially just a rip-off of the Leviathan box, the Space Marine part, and not even all of it. I will be frank with you, I don't like this one. A Terminator Captain for 42 bucks. It's a good model, and it would be good if we had access to the Assault Terminators, or if you make them yourself out of converted bits, which is something that I would personally recommend, using just the new Terminator models and some shields and hammers. There are a lot of third-party bits available for sale. So if you make that kind of a unit and then add the Terminator Captain to that, it's not a bad idea, because you have 2 very good battle tactic stratagems for Blood Angels, and you'll be able to use that for free with his ability, and he also gives them reroll charges. My problem with him is that he doesn't give +1 to charge, so you cannot really count on charging in from Dip Strike, so it means that it only helps you really when he's on the board just walking. Next is the new Terminator Squad. Not bad, they are great models, and Ingenio Terminators are good now. Problem is these ones are not Assault, and we really want the Assault version for obvious reasons. But as I mentioned before, you can make these guys into Assault ones if you like. Next are Infernus Marines. They're very cheap. They're great because they can battle shock infantry if you like. They have flamers, so they are very scary on Overwatch for something like Drukhari or Harlequins, so anything that is low toughness. And there's just something beautiful about the Blood Angel in red armor carrying a flamer. That's very thematic for me, so not a bad addition. Shame it's only 5. Lastly, Terminator Librarian, not bad. He gives sustain 1 to the Terminators he joins, so not a bad buff. But my problem with him, again, is with any Librarian, is that he occupies the slot that can otherwise be occupied by, for example, a Chaplain. And if you ask me what is more important, +1 to wound or sustain hits, my answer would be +1 to wound. But the biggest issue with this combat patrol is the value. It's only 179 roughly dollars, depending on how you priced some of these models, which are not for sale separately for now. And it's only a $19 discount, which is not great. It's the lowest one for now that we have seen. So I would not be that worried about buying this one, to be honest. Next one is the Space Wolves one. Historically, it wasn't that great. Let's see. So we get 10 intercessors here. That's not bad. Again, we can build Death Company out of them, and I really think that Death Company intercessors are a very cool thing to build your Blood Angels around. You get quite a lot of versatility with them, and they are relatively cheap. They must be because they're intercessors, but still they're intercessors with that added layer of combat ability, which I really like. Though there is this competition between them and the assault intercessors, which the assault intercessors get full rerolls to wound, which obviously that's quite big considering that you're getting +1 attack, you're getting +2 strength, so you have strength 6 chainsword. On the other hand, the Death Company ones get 6+ feel no pain, which means a lot if you are being attacked by damage 2 guns, and also they have full rerolls to hit. And obviously the free Overwatch / Heroic Intervention every turn. So both Assault Intercessors and Death Company Intercessors do have their place in Blood Angels, so it means that having more Intercessors bodies is good, because we can relatively easily make Assault Intercessors or Death Company ones out of the regular ones. Next is Invictor Tactical Warsuit. I'm still not a fan of this one. I'm still waiting for him to become good again. He was good for like 5 minutes after the model was released. It was, I think, in 8th edition, but I may be wrong there, or at the very beginning of 9th, I'm not sure. So in any case, he was good, but then he became bad all of a sudden, almost immediately, as soon as the price was increased, and he wasn't good ever since. My problem is durability for him. He dies too quickly and he costs too much, and now he cannot even forward deploy. He can only scout move, so scout move is better in some instances, but not always. So I'm not sure. I cannot say it's a bad model to have. It's good to have in your collection, but I wouldn't hunt for the Combat Patrol Space Wolves just to have the Invictor. 5 Reavers, I'm not going to comment about that. Just a sad story. I don't know why GW hates them so much, but Reavers, there's just no reason for you to buy them, to have them for now, unfortunately. Space Wolves Lieutenant, it's a great model for conversions. I think you can build a very nice looking Blood Angels Blade Guard champion or something like that out of this guy, or just have him as a lieutenant, which no one prevents you from having that. The only problem is going to be the axe, so you would have to count that as something else. Lieutenants buff in general are good, lethal hits, and also being able to fall back and charge and shoot. That's a nice combo. And as always, you get those 2 sprues for Space Wolves upgrades, which you can potentially trade or just sell on eBay. Discount here is $35, which again is lower than even the Dark Angels one, and Dark Angels one is 2 times lower than the Blood Angel set, so I'm not sure. I probably would not recommend this one. Next is the Indomitus box, the good old Indomitus, and believe me, this box is still very valid. Let's run through the Space Marine half. So we have 10 Assault Intercessors. I already talked a lot about them. They're great. You get 10 of these guys here. The 3 Eradicators, still very good, very cheap, pretty decent at dealing with heavy things like vehicles and monsters. Not perfect, but not bad as well, and they are relatively cheap for what they do. The Blade Guard, they are great, again, very efficient, 90 points per unit of 3, and they are melee oriented plus have an invulnerable save, so what else can you wish for? With Red Thirst and Red Rampage, they can really carve a bloody path through almost anything. 3 Outriders, they are a great cheap recon unit and some of the cheapest point per wound models in the Space Marine book. And remember, these are toughness 5 Space Marines with bikes under them, so 12-inch move and a 6-inch automatic advance. Plus, if you count the fact that the Blood Angel would give them +2 to the strength of their chainswords and also more attacks, they suddenly become less ignorable in combat. Primaris Captain, not a bad thing to have. If you're building one of those classic Captain plus Lieutenant bricks, it's a good one, but in general, he's very passable. Primaris Chaplain, already talked about Chaplains, great to have, as many as you really can, because you, unlike 9th edition, can have multiple squads. For example, you can have 2 impulsors filled with 5 blade guard, and that will be very helpful to have 2 chaplains available, one from the Endomet Box, for example, and another one from the combat patrol. GC, a great support character, one of few sources of fight firsts we have, and Sanguinor and Mephiston are the other two. Sanguinor can't attach to anything, Mephiston can only attach to certain things, so a very good option to have, for example, for your Blade Guard. I would still probably go for the Chaplain, just because the offense in this case I think outweighs the defense, but still nice to have. Primaris Lieutenant, very good Lieutenant for the Blade Guard. There's always space for more Lieutenants in Warhammer 40,000, so this one is one more. Blade Guard Ancient. Until they give this guy a sword, I'm not even gonna look at him, because it's just obnoxiously stupid, in my opinion, that the champion of a squad which is called Blade Guard is literally carrying, I think, a clock or something like this, something stupid in his hand, instead of carrying a sword. That just doesn't make any sense. So until they fix this idiotic issue, I'm not gonna recommend it. So the total value of the Indomitable Space Marine have is about $430, depending on how you count some of the prices, but that's roughly what you're looking at. And you can still find a sealed box on eBay for as low as $350 plus shipping. And that's a box full of Necrons as well. So that's both halves of the box set. So if you can find a way, if you, for example, if you need the Necrons yourself, or you can find a way to dispose of them, like, for example, trading them or selling them, then it's a brilliant box to start your collection. So what we have is buy the Combat Patrol Blood Angels, it's a good one, buy one Dark Angels Combat Patrol, and perhaps look for an Indomitus box. Let's quickly look at the Blood Angels Primaris upgrades that we have available. They cost $10 on eBay roughly, and $15 on GW Web Store, and it's also the upgrade kit you would get, upgrade sprue you would get with the Blood Angels Combat Patrol. You get 6 regular size shoulder pads, so 1 for the Sergeant and 5 more for the regular guys. You got 3 heads, 2 of them are bare, 1 of them has a nice looking helmet with a drop of blood. 3 Gravis-sized shoulders, so you will have enough to build 1 full kit of aggressors. And 7 different nice-looking accessories that all go on the belts of your intercessors. Plus, you get 1 right arm for your intercessor sergeant with a pistol to add dynamism, though I don't really understand this one because we already have a similar-looking arm in the intercessor kit, and also left chainsword, which we really need those, and they are the main source of chainswords for your assault intercessor conversion from the intercessor one. Obviously, there are a lot of third-party chainswords, and that's where you mostly need to be looking. I'm not saying you should buy a $15 sprue just to have 1 chainsword. That would be stupid. Next is the Blood Angels upgrade pack from old, so the Firstborn one. I really like this one because all the shoulder pads, they still work on the Primaris guys, they will fit, and they look much nicer. They have more details, they are cooler than the Primaris ones. Those are too bland for my personal taste. And also we get 10 shoulder pads in this kit, compared to 6 in that one. And if you're like me, you don't like decals, which I think you should like decals if you're a beginner painter, but if you like painting stuff yourself, the 3D ones do look better than the decals. We get 4 heads in this one. One of them is the thematic head with blonde hair, 2 Firstborn looking helmets, so it will be hard to justify them on the Primaris model, but still they will look okay, and also a very cool looking death mask helmet. This would look very cool on your character, something like a chaplain or captain. 2 chests, which are almost useless for you because they will not fit anything but the standard Firstborn body. Even the Vanguard veterans will not fit this chest, unfortunately. 2 backpack accessories, 1 goblet with a crown covered in droplets of blood, which is a very cool accessory. I have that one particular one on one of my bike models, I think. And a right-handed goblet with blood in it, again, a very cool accessory to have. Lastly, a dagger for the belt. So if you want your Blood Angels to look as good as possible, I highly recommend to pick up a couple of these Blood Angels upgrade packs for the Firstborn. And lastly, let's talk about this stuff, everything else you need to buy. It's not everything, it's most of the stuff you need to buy. Obviously, if you really want a full Blood Angels collection, you probably want to have almost everything that you can see in Codex Space Marine. So this video would be just huge if I went through everything that you might ever want to have. So I will mention things that I would think it would be best for you to pick up first. First one is the Librarian Dreadnut or the Death Company Dread. They are the same price, they come from the same kit, so they are in the same spot here. They are great in melee. The Librarian one specifically, I really like his halberd, but the Death Company one obviously fights better. And the Librarian one can teleport your infantry units around the board, which for Blood Angels, it's a invaluable ability. You need to roll a 2+, but still it's a great ability. And also he gives a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds to guys within 6. Death Company Dread is much scarier in combat. He also fights whenever you activate, whenever you attack him, so he is very weird to fight against, but he needs help with delivering. He doesn't help other units, so I would personally go for the Librarian Dreadnought instead if you are only buying one kit. And you definitely need Librarian Dreadnought because it's first a thematic model, and also I hope that someday they will return flying Dreadnoughts. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you probably started in 10th edition. Flying Dreadnought, by Flying Dreadnought I mean Wings of Sanguinius psychic power that you were able to cast onto the Psyche himself, so Librarian Dreadnought, and the Dreadnought could fly 12 inches, increasing his threat range by that much, which was hilarious. It was awesome, and I hope they will return it, even though it's stupid, but that's the kind of stupid we like in 40k. Next is Chief Librarian Mephiston, a great looking character, gives fight first to assault intercessors, so he's really worth considering if you put him in Land Raider, for example. It's a nice combination if you want to have one unit of assault intercessors with Chaplain, for example, and one with the Mephiston for those you will be using the Red Rampage. Get the maximum out of their combat potential. He also gives them the 4-up Shrug against psychic attacks, the typical thing that the Librarians give, and also can debuff enemy units that fight him. A very good model. I highly recommend to have it in the collection, and also you might really want to have it for some future lists depending on how things change in the codex. Next we have a couple of difficult ones. So Death Company, Sanguinary Guard, and the Sanguinor. All of these three I'm very suspicious, and I think they will be getting new releases when the Codex Blood Angels drops somewhere this year, I hope. So investing a lot into these old models I will not recommend that. I definitely am pretty like 99% sure that we are getting an upgrade for the Sanguinary Guard. They are a thematic unit. You cannot really imagine Blood Angels without them. They're just the thing that you imagine when you think Blood Angels, pretty much. And with the new Dante model, which is not in this list currently just because I don't really like the buffs that he gives, but he still would be a recommended model to have in your collection in general, especially as soon as the Sanguinary Guard are released. So considering that we already have this new style of Sanguinary Guard type of models with Dante, I'm sure that these actual Sanguinary Guard are not far behind. So for Death Company, my recommendation would be to just grab some of those available on even official Games Workshop store, some of those jump packs, and just stick them onto your Death Company intercessors. If you are very smart, you can probably even magnetize the backpacks so that they are interchangeable, but you can just build like a 10-man squad of these, for example, and use them as your Death Company. In most cases, in most tournaments, no one will say anything to you, and especially if you notify the TO in advance. Just make sure that they are on the same 32 mil size base as they should be. Then when the Death Company arrives, or if it doesn't arrive with the new codex, you will pretty much be okay, because you can just mix and match the new Death Company with your converted ones, Primaris ones, or if they are not released, then you're golden. For Sanguinary Guard, situation is more difficult because there are no, as far as I know, really good model alternatives for the Sanguinary Guard, and I'm pretty sure the new ones will look just incredible. So I personally wouldn't want to invest a lot of efforts into painting something that will then be replaced by the new models. In that sense, we are in luck, because for now the Sanguinary Guard are not a must-have model in terms of playing Blood Angels. So what I would do if I were starting Blood Angels, collecting Blood Angels now, is I would have the Death Company using the method I have mentioned before. I would have everything else we have discussed before and just wait on the Sanguinary Guard, because I'm pretty sure we are gonna get the new models. Talking about things with Sanguine in the name, Sanguinor is another thing that I think will be released anew, so the new model, and the same applies to him pretty much. So he is a brilliant sculpt already. I like how he looks, but looks kind of old, kind of small. So I think we are gonna get a nice, beautiful Sanguinor model in the new Codex release. And this one is difficult because you do really want Sanguinor in every list of yours nowadays with Blood Angels. So you probably have to go for the proxy model or just buy the original one, and then once the new one drops, just change it to the new one. He's just too good to ignore with his ability to just appear inside combat and also have fight first, so he will just punish anything that is in combat with your Blood Angels, and that's such a unique thing to have, so that I cannot really recommend Blood Angels without this guy. Next are Assault Terminators. So you need 2x5 of these guys with hammers and shields, but I recommend to magnetize them to claws as well. They are an iconic unit, these 10 red Blood Angels Terminators with hammers. I just love how that looks, and I don't think you can have a proper collection without them. Plus, Terminators are actually quite good, especially if you stick the new Chaplain model into their midst and have the Red Rampage on standby if necessary. If you don't have the Chaplain inside the squad, they will punch the hell out of almost anything. The only problem with Blood Angels with them is deliverability. How will you deliver them into combat, because you're not getting any buffs to your movement now. You're not even getting the old +1 to charge. So if you're looking again to build the most bare bones Blood Angels army, what I would do is I would skip on the Assault Terminators for now, considering that we don't have the actual kit yet available with the new size of the Terminator. Then when it's released, buy them, build them, paint them, and obviously add some accessories on top, using the fact that for now they are not a mandatory unit in your competitive Blood Angels lists. You definitely need more Inceptors. If you've bought just one Dark Angels Combat Patrol, you only have 3, and you need at least 6 to have something that you can use. I would probably go for 2x6 if you have the budget. The Inceptors are historically models that return time and time again as very good, very strong unit choice, so I expect them to be just that for a long time. So they're worth the investment. We already discussed why you want them in your Blood Angels list, so we move on. Next, I recommend to have at least 2 Redemptors in total. Of course, I personally like 3, but that's just me, because they also like to be Blood Angels, as we discussed, and they provide good shooting output, something that Blood Angels desperately want, but not on a platform that cannot fight, so that works well with your theme. And lastly, we have some Scouts here. They are a great unit still, even though they are 10 points, or yeah, I think 10 points. 10 points more expensive now, and you need 2 units of 5 of these. If you want to know why exactly, I recommend to watch my video about Space Marine Scouts, where I talk in detail about them. In terms of other models that I didn't mention yet, it's of course Limartes. It's just such an old model that I cannot recommend to buy it now. I hope they will release the new Limartes with the new Codex. That would be just the best release ever. Sanguinor, Limartes, and the new Sanguinary Guard. That's just all I am asking for the Blood Angels. I'm gonna start my own Blood Angels army if that happens, I promise you. But if you're okay with Mini Marines, he's actually a very good datasheet. He gives -1 damage to a unit of Jump Back Death Company that he leads, and also gives them lethal hits. So 2 perfect buffs for the Death Company, both durability and also extra output. So if you're all about the competitive nature, Limartes definitely needs to be in your list. I like Astaroth, but I don't like the fact that he gives devastating wounds only once per battle, and that his fight first for his squad is only on a 4+. That's just too many limitations for a character slot that can be filled by, say, a simple humble chaplain. By the way, about the chaplain, again, I'm giving you the same advice as for the Death Company. Just build a regular chaplain model, put him on a 32 mil size base, which is the size of the base for the chaplain with jump pack model, the old one, and when they finally release the normal looking big chaplain with a jump pack, he will most likely be on a 40mm base, and you'll just swap the base out. So that is my Blood Angels what to buy guide. Tell me what you think about this, guys, and tell me what are your plans on collecting the Blood Angels. I would like to know that. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.